The following video was produced by the Centre de Mémoires Montréalais, for its online encyclopedia, Mémoires des Montréalais. Directed by Stéphanie Lessard-Bérubé in 2018, it is entitled, Portrait of José-Louis Jacome. The video is part of the collection, Stories of Immigration. It also appears in the dossiers, From One Island to Another, Azorian Immigration, and Encontros, the Portuguese Community of Montreal. On the cover of the book written by José-Louis Jacome, the title appears, Dunil à l'autre, Fragment de Mémoire. The book's cover photo shows a group of Azorian immigrants before their departure for Canada in 1954. One of the men waves a Portuguese flag. When the video starts, José-Louis is sitting at his desk in his home. The photo from the book cover hangs framed on the wall. In the living room, stacked boxes contain copies of the book, in French and Portuguese. As he tells his story, the author goes through albums, gathering documents and family photos. The video starts, and the title appears. Portrait of José-Louis Jacome.
My birth name is José Luis da Silva Raposo Jacome. When we arrived at the Dorval Airport, on March 25, 1958, it became José-Louis Jacome. I was born on May 18, 1949, in Ribéry-Grande, which is a city on the island of São Miguel in the Azores. It is an archipelago of 9 islands, which is located in the middle of the Atlantic, between Europe and Canada. In fact, it is 2,000 kilometers from the coast of Portugal. We had the beach, or the seaside. Then after that, it was nothingness. We had never seen anything from that line. We emigrate, but there is always a part of ourselves that remains linked to our origins. Since the death of my parents, in 1988, I have really thought that I had to find that I needed to gather as many documents, as many recipes, as many photos as possible. On each of my trips to the Azores, on each of my trips to Toronto, on each of my meetings in Montreal, or wherever there was family, I always made sure to ask questions, to help clarify a tradition, to better understand a story, or a recipe. And then, as we say, I put meat around that bone. You know, the book is a part of it. But I have even more material. Those are all original documents that I have from my parents, from their immigration. And some of these documents, no one else has them. I have one here. For example, this is my father's original ticket. When he took the boat, we see a postcard here, which he got on the boat, with a note on the back that says, "Here is the boat that is taking us to Canada. You have here the bill for the furniture, and everything he bought, to welcome us 4 years later." But, in the case of my father, one thing that is quite funny is that he had the furniture delivered on Tuesday afternoon, and we arrived on Tuesday evening. So no one has these 3 sheets of paper given to Portuguese immigrants when they came to Canada. These sheets of paper told them, in terms of food, what to expect, a bit about how to dress, and the lifestyle. For example, they say not to drink coffee that is too strong. I'm sorry, but the coffee is stronger over there. In those days, the coffee that was available around here was called dirty water by the Italians. So, it was really very, very weak coffee. They also told people not to eat too much. Which is funny, because these were people who had experienced hunger. I had two great aunts who had been in the United States since the early 1900s. They went to work in the cotton mills in New England, in the Boston area. In the 1940s, they began traveling to the Azores to visit family and such. They took a Kodak camera with them on these islands, amongst the people, and even in Portugal. Hardly anyone has a camera to take pictures, or a Kodak. And they took a lot of pictures of the family. And this is why I have photos, which is rather unusual among the Portuguese of that generation. There's a second generation cousin of mine, someone I hadn't seen in over 60 years. He said to me, "I absolutely must see you." I simply asked him, as I always ask people I meet, "Do you have old photos or historical photos?" And he answers no, like everyone else. So he says he has nothing, but at the same time he tells me he has a frame, which was given to him by Isolina, a cousin of my mother, and he shows me a frame. And for me it's a shock. It's a treasure. It is a frame that we had at home, in the family, until the death of my parents in '88. We see in this frame, my grandmother, her father, and her brother, José. It is a frame that dates back to 1912, 1913 approximately. And what is astonishing is that it is a very poor family, very, very poor. Hardly anyone had photos at this time. And they had a picture of this size, with only 2 of the 9 children, and the father. While normally, they should at least have had the whole family, because they couldn't afford to take several shots, or several photos. Finally, to have found it like that, after 30 years, was a very emotional moment for me. When I started to collect all that stuff, it was for me, so I would not forget my roots. It was also for the children and the family, so that they can know where I come from. The idea of publishing the book came up very recently, during a meeting with Joaquina Pires. One day, in a cafe, while showing her everything I had, she said to me, "José, you should publish this, it doesn't make sense, you can't keep this to yourself." I was aware, and now I am much more aware than before, that at the community level, and for all the people who lived through this story, these writings will have a certain importance as history to be remembered. Also, you have to understand that in Montreal, out of 50-some thousand Portuguese, perhaps 90% are Azorians, so that affects a lot of people. They can see themselves in this story.
The video ends with images of José-Louis, holding a copy of his book. Credits. Story, José-Louis Jacome. Video, Stéphanie Lessard-Bérubé. Photos, personal collection of José-Louis Jacome. Map, Nautical Chart 1913, G. Clerc Rumpal, Wikimedia Commons. Acknowledgements, Fernand Jacome. Audio description by Ella Cuscio.